If we take a look above the rock slide, though, there's no outcropping or indication that really any of this rock should be here. The bluff on either side of the rock slide doesn't indicate the same kind of failure. So we're inclined to think that perhaps during the history of these bluffs and the construction going on here, that perhaps this was a dump site for material that was scoured off some property during construction. We don't know exactly which property developer did this, but there are at least 2 or 3 of these odd rockfall formations here in the immediate area. We're going to travel down the trail a little bit and take a look at a very natural phenomena of a chimney, a volcanic chimney, frozen in time. This is probably the grandest oddity on geologic oddity on this walk. These are concentric rings of an old volcanic chimney. Now, this chimney was not part of a volcano as such, but existed deep underground, and the magma flowed through these vents, through these tunnels, liquid molten rock, and as they cooled, dried, they formed these concentric rings. Later, as the material cooled even more, they cracked, and the spokes that come out from the center filled in with other rock and rubble and concretions, minerals. But this is a huge formation, similar to the lava tubes that you could walk through in Hawaii, but massive scale. This is a magma tube. Magma and lava are a little different in that lava makes its way out to the surface some way, either volcanic eruption or like the Hawaiian Islands squeezing itself out of different cracks in the rock. But magma cooled and solidified without ever coming to the surface. So what we have here is formations of basalt that cooled when it was magma deep below the ground, and here at the shore, having all of the rock above it eroded, is exposed now. Just a beautiful, beautiful piece of geologic wonder. It can only be seen during the low tide, and we're very lucky today to have a negative 1 foot tide so that we can see the formation in all its glory. In the background, you see the Point Vicente lighthouse, and if we stare into the turret, we can see the light that revolves 24 hours a day, beaming light in our direction. The light shines so that it can be seen far out to sea, but on the backside presented a problem to the residents around here after World War II. And made such an impact in their lives that they requested the Coast Guard do something about the light shining into their bedroom windows. So the Coast Guard painted the back of the light white, and suddenly we had the existence of the legend of the Lady of the Light. So it seemed that during the light's revolution, it shone into the white paint and created enough of an illusion that on some foggy nights probably looked like a ghost walking on the outside fence of the light. As the years went on, more and more paint was applied to the backside of the light. The lady disappeared. We're taking a look here at some of the habitat, the plants in front of us. The tall grass is the giant rye. It's a native grass. The Native Americans, the Tongva, the Chumash that lived around here would have used this for fabricating the outside of their structures, their quiche, as the Tongva would call their homes, or the wickiups that the Chumash named their homes. They would weave the grass leaves into mats and cover their structures so that it would keep the rain and sun out. They used the tall, strong, straight branches of this grass during a hunting trip to knock birds down. They'd use it as an arrow, not needing a spear point, sharp rock chipped into an arrowhead. They just needed to knock the birds down, so rather than waste the effort, manpower, man-hours to fabricate a hunting arrow, an arrowhead was not necessary. The ladies would have come out to harvest the seeds. They would have bent the branch down and tapped the branch with a stick and catch the ripe seeds in a basket, taking them back to the village to grind them into flour so they would mix the flour of other seeds into flour for their flatbreads that today we call tortillas. They would also use the flour to thicken their soups. Behind the ryegrass we have the salt bush, also known as quail bush. The quail bush was used by the Native Americans as food. They boiled leaves and ate them like we would spinach. They ground the seeds up again and mixed it into their flour base. It makes a great bird habitat, then hence the name quail bush. The salt bush takes the salt out of the air and out of the soil and loads the leaves and branches with salt so much that if you would take the leaf and shine it into the sun, you could see the salt crystals in the leaves. The Indians would have used it to fabricate their table salt. They would have taken the branches and leaves and thrown them into the fire, and when the fire was out and the ashes had cooled, they would take the ashes and brush them away and look for the salt crystals that the salt bush would left behind, and use it as table salt, just like we would use table salt. Let's go on and see what else we can find. We stopped here to take advantage of the view again. It's just such a nice day. The view of Catalina here is extraordinary. There's a little haze in the air, but still, 17 miles away, Catalina is just a beautiful sight. Here near shore, we have some landmarks that whale watchers use when they count the whales going back and forth here. The large rock furthest out to sea is affectionately known as Whale Rock. When the tide and the waves are coming in just right, it actually blows a plume of water up into the air, and it looks like a whale spout. When it's extreme high tide, the rock itself looks like the back of a gray whale going by, submerging as the swells come through. We see also kelp near shore, the giant kelp, which grows 200 feet in length, maybe as much as 2 feet a day. Creates a micro habitat for young fish, larval fish, different stages of their lives, hide in the kelp forest. Kelp grows only in rocky terrain, attaches itself to the rock with what's called a holdfast. The holdfast has been nibbled away here and there by sea urchins, and the theory is that without the sea otter being allowed to fish for sea urchins here locally anymore, the kelp is in extreme danger of being eradicated. And in fact, during the 50s and 60s was almost disappeared here on the peninsula. There was a great effort by local divers, dive clubs, to replant the spores of the kelp into the rocks, and the fruit of their labors here is in front of us. The kelp forest is growing quite dramatically year after year, and whale watchers seem to think that this year the kelp is as large as they've ever seen it. We also see some buoys out here, small buoys that indicate there are lobster pots below. Each buoy has the markings of the lobster trap's owner, and during the week we'll see them occasionally come by and check their traps for the California spiny lobster, which has no claws but still has a nice sized tail that produces some good quality meat. Let's go. This is one of the many attractions here at the Point Vicente Interpretive Center. This whaling boat was refurbished, restored by the docents here, led by Captain Bob Berry and his restoration crew. Took them a few years to take what was once a derelict whale boat and restore it into something that is quite authentic, from the harpoons to the mast, from bow to stern, restored with tender loving care, painted to realistic colors of whale era. We're going to go around the front and take a look at the building and explain to you a little bit more about the Point Vicente Interpretive Center. Here at the Point Vicente Interpretive Center, they have installed many exhibits that tell the history of this Palos Verdes Peninsula, both the cultural history and geologic history of the area. Currently there's an exhibit of the old marine land, and they have memorabilia from the marine land site when it was in its heyday. The Interpretive Center is open every day but Christmas and Thanksgiving, from 10 in the morning until 5 p.m. The Interpretive Center was recently remodeled, and a kitchen and multi-purpose room were installed, as well as classrooms and office space for the docents and recreation parks personnel. One of the jewels of the peninsula, Point Vicente Interpretive Center. Here's a good place to close our walk for the day. We're going to say goodbye until our January walk. Come join us. Take a look at our new schedule online at www.pvplc.org, and keep an eye and ear open for our next fundraiser. We're looking at purchasing the remaining property in the Portuguese Bend Preserve area. Details are still being worked out, but it'll happen just within the next year or so, hopefully. So again, goodbye and thank you.